philosophy of Alan Watts. This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it is play. No one is more dangerously insane than one who is sane all the time. He's like a steel bridge without flexibility, and the order of his life is rigid and brittle. No work or love will flourish out of guilt, fear, or hollowness of heart, just as no valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now. The future is a concept. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as tomorrow. There never will be, because time is always now. That's one of the things we discover when we stop talking to ourselves and stop thinking. We find there's only present, only an eternal now. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It's so plain and so obvious and so simple. In it every day, everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. We're living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between a causative past and an all-absorbing important future. We have no present. Our consciousness is almost completely preoccupied with memory and expectation. We do not realize that there never was, is, nor will be any other experience than present experience. We are therefore out of touch with reality. We must abandon completely the notion of blaming the past for any kind of situation we're in, and reverse our thinking and see that the past always flows back from the present. That now is the creative point of life. So you see, it's like the idea of forgiving somebody. You change the meaning of the past by doing that. Also, watch the flow of music. The melody, as it's expressed, is changed by notes that come later, just as the meaning of a sentence. You wait till later to find out what the sentence means. So, the present is always changing the past. To remain stable is to refrain from trying to separate yourself from a pain, because you know that you cannot. Running away from fear is fear. Fighting pain is pain. Trying to be brave is being scared. If the mind is in pain, the mind is pain. The thinker has no other form than his thought. There is no escape. We cannot be more sensitive to pleasure without being more sensitive to pain. How is it possible that a being with such sensitive jewels as the eyes, such enchanted musical instruments as the ears, and such a fabulous arabesque of nerves as the brain, can experience itself as anything less than a god? And when you consider that this incalculably subtle organism is inseparable from the still more marvelous patterns of its environment, from the minutest electrical designs to the whole company of the galaxies, how is it conceivable that this incarnation of all eternity can be bored with being? Jesus Christ knew he was God, so wake up and find out eventually who you really are. In our culture, of course, they'll say you're crazy and you're blasphemous, and they'll either put you in jail or in a nut house, which is pretty much the same thing. However, if you wake up in India and tell your friends and relations, my goodness, I've just discovered that I'm God, they'll laugh and say, oh, congratulations, at last you found out. The difference between a baby and an adult is that a baby believes in everything, while the adult doubts everything. Babies also only tell the truth until they learn what a lie is. Faith is above all openness, an act of trust in the universe. Many people never grow up. They stay all their lives with a passionate need for external authority and guidance, pretending not to trust their own judgment. Real travel requires a maximum of unscheduled wandering. There is no other way of discovering surprises and marvels, which, as I see it, is the only good reason for not staying at home. We get such a kick out of looking forward to pleasures and rushing ahead to meet them that we can't slow down enough to enjoy them when they come. It's only when there is no goal and no rush that the human senses are fully open to receive the world. No valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now. only way to make sense of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. The ego is a social institution with no physical reality. The ego is simply a symbol of yourself, just as the word water is a noise that symbolizes a certain liquid without being it. So too, the idea of ego symbolizes the role you play. The biggest ego trip going is getting rid of your ego. And the joke of it all is your ego doesn't exist. There's nothing to get rid of. A scholar tries to learn something every day. A student of Buddhism tries to unlearn something daily. Your personality is a phantom, even more insubstantial than your body. Personality is a work of art. It's like music, which vanishes as soon as it's played. Hurrying and delaying are alike ways of trying to resist the present. Try to stay at the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. And that insecurity is the result of trying to be secure. This is the real secret of life. Completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it's play. Normally, we do not so much look at things as overlook them. Insecurity is the result of trying to be secure. So then, the relationship of self to other is the complete realization that loving yourself is impossible without loving everything defined as other than yourself. Stop measuring days by degree of production and start experiencing them by degrees of presence. You must not be afraid of playing wrong notes. Just forget it. Play it wrong, but play. Humans suffer only because we take seriously what the gods made for fun. We are all as much extraordinary phenomena of nature as trees, clouds, the patterns in running water, the flickering of fire, the arrangement of the stars, and the form of a galaxy. It's a kind of digging in the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now, and it brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now. You and I are all as much continuous with the physical universe as a wave is continuous with the ocean. Enjoyment is an art and a skill for which we have little talent or energy. Your entire education has deprived you of this capacity because it was preparing you for the future instead of showing you how to be alive now. The most dangerous risk of all is the risk of spending your life not doing what you want on the bet you can buy yourself the freedom to do it later. By replacing fear of the universe with curiosity, we open ourselves up to an infinite stream of possibility. We can let fear rule our lives, or we can become children with curiosity, pushing our boundaries, leaping out of our comfort zones, and accepting what life puts before us.